And everybody was like, ooh, that's expensive. In this zip code, I sell well. In this zip code, I don't sell well. Right. So let's not put money from there to here.
And
everybody's giving you a deal.
And you get none of them done, right? Like, you're listening to the Roofing Success Podcast, a show created to inspire roofing contractors to achieve optimal success in their roofing businesses. I'm the host, Jim Aline, the co-author of the books Internet Marketing for Roofing Contractors and The Best Known Roofer. I'm also the co-founder of Roofer Marketers, the leading digital marketing agency for the roofing industry. On each episode, I sit down with industry leaders to talk about their processes, the lessons they've learned, and how to find success in roofing. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast. Do me a favor. Hit a like button if you see it. Follow, subscribe. If there's a place to leave a comment, do so. Leave us a review. All of those fun things. Today we have Jennifer Westhoff with Christian Brothers Roofing in the Kansas City area. How are you today?
Wonderful, superb, and amazing.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me.
So Jennifer, what led you to the roofing business?
My dad. Mm-hmm. I had a choice between moving to Colorado for corporate with Dish Network or following where my family moved and coming into a family business with my dad started.
Those family members.
He said, I can't afford you, but I need you.
The family wins a lot of times. That's why we're up in the Twin Cities area. They win. It's like, I wonder, Jennifer, why my family didn't choose like a really nice climate, like maybe a beach somewhere. No, Minnesota. So we get our winters, but we do have the lakes and all of that. So so you kind of grew up in the roofing business then, right?
No.
Okay. Your father started the company later?
It was 14 years ago is when my dad started the company. So he was 55 when he started the business.
Oh, all
right. So my younger brothers, we have two more that are about 9 years younger. Those two, they grew up with mom and dad starting the business, and their two older siblings right beside mom and dad starting it up. But yeah, this was a big pivot for me and my other brother, Ryan.
Yeah. So you're the older two?
Yeah.
So how did you so you went off, you said Dish Network. What was your background before getting into roofing then? Before joining the family business?
Yeah, I was not qualified at all. I did a lot of bartending, a lot of serving, love customer service, but more than anything, my dad raised me, I love a challenge. So if you give me a job, it's how soon can I get to the top of that job and then move to the next one. And that's just how I've always been. So my dream since I was a little girl was to live in Colorado. And when Dish Network said, hey, we've got a corporate opening and we can transfer you, that was literally the dream come true, I thought, until, my dad said, hey, we really, really need you full time. And I was like, you know what? I've been missing out on my little brothers growing up. I had to miss a family cruise the year before that because I didn't have enough PTO. And I was like, family work perks, and headed over.
So it was time. It was time to join the family business. And what did you? What role did they need filled that you entered into?
So the same. It's more of a catch-all. They needed somebody. The best way I described my position when we started was, my dad needed somebody that he could say, hey, I need a Liberty gibbet and I need it tomorrow. And he can just leave it at that. And somebody who can understand the urgency, research what it is, find it, get it, procure it, and have it ready when he needs it, and ask the right questions to make sure we're not getting, screwed over in the process of getting it. So that's the best way to describe it. And then my role just kind of grew everywhere. We needed a new process everywhere. We needed a streamline as I brought us digital. So we went from paper lead sheets to digital, and then we went into customer service database. And then from there, he brought me into, okay, I think we need to start marketing. And then I took that one head on. along with the HR and the insurance. And, all of the things.
The family business, right? The family business.
Yes.
Do what's needed at all times, right?
Exactly.
And so, what were some of the things along the way as the business was growing? Let maybe tell the story of how, like, where it was when your father started it, and then, like, when you joined it, where were, what kind of size was it? How many team members were there, and then how it's grown since?
Yeah. So my dad started it because he started working part-time for another roofer that was over committed on leads. He saw that they were shorting the salespeople and shorting the crews. And he was like, well, I can do that better and ethically. And my dad, if you ever meet him, is black and white. There is right, there is wrong, there is no in between, there is no gray area. There's right, there's wrong. And so he bought a box of business cards, a business membership to a BNI networking group, and told himself if he could sell a roof a week, he could keep the lights on at our house, and my mom wouldn't feel scared that he just started a new business. But it grew from there. He called in on my brother Ryan, who was 17 at the time, and he was serving at Zio's down in Tulsa, and I lived in Tulsa as well at that time. And Ryan would come up a few days a week, sell with Scott, and then go back to Tulsa and serve at Zio's. And then they started needing administrative work help other than my mom. And so I started to do the same thing. I switched to a 4-day schedule with Dish and came up 3 days up here in Kansas City. And then I drove down when Ryan was driving up, and we did that for about 2 years. And then he met Ryan's girlfriend, Jordan, came on board right around that time too. And she started helping administratively. And after that, it slowly grew until 2011. 2011, we had a massive storm here, and it just, roofing industry blew up.
Yeah.
Catastrophic event with wood shake roofs in Johnson County. And we were lucky to be staffed enough at that point that we were ready to do a banner year. And from there, we reinvested any profits from that into the company and the processes and the people. We send them on training. We've always been big on reinvesting in the people we hire.
I love the way that, like, there's always a hustle to getting this started, right? And there was something with your father that was like, I have to, right? Like, there was a have to. I think Tony Robbins calls it a must, right? Like, he says, like, must or something. I've heard, like, things like that. Like, I have to sell a roof a week. I have to. Like, there's I got my business cards. I have a BNI group I'm going to, and I'm going to go and make this happen. That intention is extremely powerful. It's really challenging. I see a lot of contractors that have a lot of hope, but they don't go out there and will themselves to success. And it sounds like your dad,
we call it
grit, right? Like that grit. Yeah. Like that grit is like, and then, between you and your brother, like, just taking time to jump in and help out and do what you can. And then that turns into more, and then it turns into more. And then opportunity meets preparation.
Correct.
And that was the storm year, right? Like, you guys were prepared, and then the opportunity presents itself, and boom, blast off, right? Yeah. But there are other things that I found very insightful in what you said, is that the profits from that year got reinvested.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's so easy to go, wow, we had a good year buying a new boat. Like.
Now, don't get me wrong. We did try to talk my dad into that about how, hey, a Christian Brothers boat, we could advertise on this. Like, it'd be fine.
Right.
It'd be fine.
Like, can we wrap it? Like, we could wrap it with the logo and stuff, and like, it would be.
I mean, we had it all planned out. Yeah.
But those are tough decisions, but they're the right decisions to make as a business is growing, right? Like, so what are some of the other things along the way that stand out to you in the journey that were like key, maybe milestones or key moments that you're like, we had to make a decision here, or we chose to go this direction? What are some of those things that stand out to you?
Well, our first one would be, obviously we hired myself and my brother Ryan, and then my younger two brothers that were 9 and 11 years younger than me and Ryan. They grew up in the business, so they learned how to drive with driving my dad to appointments. Yeah. That was their learning permit practice, stuff like that. But our biggest turning point was when we hired our first outside sales rep that was not a member of the family. It was getting additional people involved that were responsible for their livelihood. We're not just responsible for, hey, you have a place to work tomorrow, but we're going to say we want to hire you and we want to provide the opportunity to feed your family for the next 10 years. But not only that, grow their experiences and go on trips and, grow with you so you can grow with us. It's one of those things that it was a huge turning point because it was a very hard decision it was an easy decision for me as like, hey, we need help and here's a really qualified couple people. But my mom is in charge of payroll and she's always done that. And it is it's not just that person, but it's that person's girlfriend who's going to become their wife, who's going to have their kids. And is this a long time move for them? If it's short time for them, that's fine, But we always have to look at it long term as we're going to be supporting a family. Can we afford to hire this person on? And can we afford, because we in our industry, there's a lot of seasonal hirings.
Yeah.
And we have never, ever in 14 years done anything seasonal like that.
That's intentional.
So when we hire somebody, they are year round, they have an income year round.
Yeah, there's such a level of intention there in that statement, right? Of providing others opportunities and making sure that the business is strong enough to provide those opportunities long term, like not just this season, not just
this year.
Just go hire a bunch of reps, see who wins, see who falls, and just whatever, they'll make us money some way, maybe somehow, right? Like it sounds like it was very intentional. So what were some of the things that you wanted to make sure were in place? Some of the things that you needed to make sure that the business was in a place where you could provide that opportunity to others long term?
So our first thing was the introduction of a CRM, having a localized storage, because that is probably the biggest part outside of our guys investing in the relationship building at each home. Outside of that, when the customer calls our office and our girls, you've got the phone numbers coming up, you're typing it in our CRM so that when you answer, it's not based on, their caller ID, because that could be anybody. They could be calling from work. But if you've got that work number and CRM for Joe Schmo, you can say, hi, Joe, how you doing? What can I help you with today? Oh, yeah, we were out there last year. Are you having more problems with that gutter? And right there, you've added value and you've added more to the relationship that the guys started building before. And whether they know it's coming from a CRM or not, somebody had the intention. I know that information because I made sure that we put it in. I know who just graduated high school because Daniel or Kevin or Colby put that note in. And that's where everything we do it with intention. And it makes a huge difference in the end.
It does. And having, so kind of thinking about that a lot, it's having a process, a systemized process first.
Yeah, that was the beginning of our process.
Yeah, so using a CRM, getting that process dialed in, making sure that it is the same every time, so that when you bring someone in, they run through the same things. It's not, on this one do this and on that one do that. Get me a piece of paper signed for that one, but on that one, just do it. Just don't even worry about it.
There's a lot you can do in QuickBooks, but with the CRM for reporting, that's really what helped with the business health.
Yeah,
that was being able to know week by week, are we up, are we down? What areas are we servicing more of? Okay, there was a storm here, but we're not really getting a response from there. Or we haven't had storms, there was a drought of, probably 4 or 5 years where we really didn't have a storm in the area. It's been doing this weird split for years.
Yeah.
But, having that CRM has given us the ability to consistently reach out to existing customers and farm those leads. And, anniversaries of their roof and being installed means, oh, that's an email they normally wouldn't have gotten that they might mention at work that, oh, that's funny. Got this funny meme from my roofer. Like, I haven't thought about him in a year. Oh, he was your roofer. And then we have a referral,
Yeah.
That's been a big key of our business is referrals and repeat customers.
That's something that gets overlooked all the time, especially in storm restoration markets, right? Like, to me, it's so amazing. Like, as it amazes me that if you don't go back into that database as you're doing jobs, especially if you have a good storm year, all of those people are now in your database, right? If you're not keeping in touch with them, if you're not reaching out to them, you said a roof anniversary, like you have all of these different places where you can have touch points with them. And then you check your hail trace or your hail recon or whatever it is when that comes through and a storm comes through and you go, oh, this zip code, this zip code, this zip code, boop, email, send, phone calls, whatever
but even
you want to
better,
do, right?
when you're looking at your CRM, you can say, in this zip code, I sell well. In this zip code, I don't sell well. Right. So let's not put money from there to here. That's one of the biggest positives that come out of there too, is seeing where your lead list is versus your customer list.
Oh, nice.
And that's a very, very important number.
Why do you think that is? What are some of the factors that you have seen along the way? Because I hear this all the time, and sometimes it's rep to rep, right? Like even some reps sell better in certain neighborhoods than others. I've heard that story multiple times too. What are some of the things that you see affecting that?
One is, I think we've trained our guys really well that they have the autonomy to decide, is that our customer? And they know if they walk up to a house and the greeting and the initial interaction is off and they don't feel right about it, something's not jiving, or say they're no-showed, or oh, I'm running late, whatever. They have the autonomy and they're given that to make the call at any point within the sales process saying, hey, you know what? He seemed cool at first. Now we're getting into it and his expectations are not lining up with the expectations I set, that we can adhere to. And I just don't feel good about doing this project. And I think that's a huge part of it, is being able to know your customer and recognize that. And granted, our customers are literally all over the city, but there's we're not the cheapest roofer and we never will be. We don't go for that. We want to build a relationship. We want to give you the best product we can with the most upfront, honest financing or payment terms. We want to build you a good roof and protect what matters most, which is your family underneath it, because everything crumbles from that roof down.
What have you learned along the way about your customers? Like, what have you learned along the way that this is our customer, this is not our customer? I know you mentioned price, right? So that's an easy one. But what are some other things?
Yeah, that's an easy
one, right? Yeah. Like, I need 5 bids, and can you eat my deductible and all those types of, like, that's an easy filter. What are some more other things that you can?
So, for example, we love engineers. When you're talking about the type of person who is going to take your bid apart, go down the specs list with you and ask 15 questions you normally don't get to answer, the guys love that. As far as, it's somebody who is interested in investing their time with us, because it's kind of a respect thing. As a roofer, there's so many that it's viewed kind of like the bottom of the barrel a lot of the times, like, sure, we'll wait for the cable guy for 5 hours, but no, we won't make a specific appointment to be at our house at 5 p.m. for you. So that's a huge part. Our office does really great on screening the calls. Shay has been with us for 5 years, going on 6 now. Jordan has been here 14.
Yeah.
And they just know how to screen those calls to make sure that what they're putting on the guys' calendars has the best chance of connecting with that person. There's some guys here that they just love to go into somebody's home who it's their first time, it's their first experience, and they're like, okay, lay it on me. What are your questions? And there's others that are like, I just want to chill back and have a cup of water and talk about what you need and what you don't, and we could be here for 2 hours if you want.
Yeah.
It's a matter of matching the right person to the right customer as it comes in.
Definitely. That's a big thing. And before that, you'd said something about them investing time, willing to invest time with you. That to me is kind of an aha moment, right? Like when you have a customer that wants to take the time and learn and like they get that you're able to build that relationship a lot more, where if they're like, stop by, I don't care if I'm home or not, jump on the roof, just send me an estimate. That tells you a lot, right? There's a lot in that for sure.
Our office girls, just like our sales guys, can say thank you so much for calling, but we're going to politely decline to bid. We wish you the best for your project. And moving on.
Politely decline to bid. Those are words that are so difficult for a business owner to say or to have their team.
Because they're chasing dollars, not relationships.
That's right. Like it gets it is many years ago, I was in 20 plus years ago, or 20-ish years ago, I was in real estate. And when I started in real estate, one of my mentors in the company was like, I can't wait till you get to fire your first client. And I was like, what are you talking about? I'm not going to fire a client. Like that's, commission. That's where your commission comes from.
Yeah.
And I remember the day I did, and it was so amazing. It was the best feeling ever that I got to fire that client because they were, it's that old 80-20 rule, right? Like they can just suck suck your time, suck your energy, and for potentially not much of a return, right? Because those are,
well, and honestly, it can be devastating for a whole week.
Yeah.
If you've got a difficult client that you think your bosses are never going to let you, cancel out that sale or whatever, and you're dealing with them every day, honey, your anxiety is building. You're going into an appointment already full of anxiety about what's going on this job. That's going to be detrimental to your whole week. And then you've got to deal with collection. I mean, it snowballs. And I think that's a simple way for us to be able to really show that our employees are what matters. And we will find the right customers where they are and when they're ready. But when we have the right team, that's what makes the biggest difference for this business.
Now, I know you've over the time you've moved into a marketing position. So finding the right customers is marketing, right? Like to me, that's a big piece of marketing. So how do you find the right customers at the scale you need to grow or be a successful roofing company?
I think it more depends on what your definition of the scale is. I mean, sometimes it's, hey, I know we're coming into winter and my guys have worked to the bone and, our scale doesn't really need to be that big right now. We need to let them have a little bit of time to recoup with their families and remember why they're doing this and, enjoy the fruits of their labor, essentially. And sometimes we have big 4 and 5 years droughts of no storms, and our marketing budget is pinched for every penny it can to maximize effort. Our decision really is based on our goals for the company that year. The last few years we were focused on building our commercial brand. So the efforts looked a lot different because we had to add to our budget because we didn't want to subtract anything from our residential that's already been built up really well. We've always done residentials and churches. But commercial was a whole nother animal. That's business to business. That was a whole nother scale that we had to jump. But As for our current, I think it's really communication with your team to decide what the right scale is for you at that time. And then I use YouTube like crazy. I do not have a marketing degree. Now, my little brother does because he knew he was going to come work here. But YouTube and watching other roofing companies. I mean, if you're not Googling other roofers in your area and looking at their website once or twice a week, you're not looking at their social media, you're looking outside. My favorite is utilizing national networks. For example, we're a Christian company. We're part of C12, which is a Christian peer-to-peer organization. So we reached out to roofers across the nation. We had a wonderful company from New Jersey come over and spend a week with us. And we just kind of looked back and forth. What are we doing? What were you doing? Really making the most of the events you go to. Hit those GAF Wealth Builder events, hit the Job Nimbus Summit, stuff like that, where you can ask the questions that need to be asked or that you're scared to ask your peers around you.
Yeah. I love what you just said about looking at other contractors and what they're doing. I just had a phone call earlier today with someone, and that's what they said. They were only about a year and a half in business, and they took off, like their business took off. And it was because the owner had a good amount of experience in the business, but not as the owner. Right. And, but he said, I would look at some of these, bigger companies. I would just look at their social media and see what they're doing. And I would say, he said he would tell his team member, like, hey, just look at them. And then if you see, just kind of mimic it. Yeah. And that's where I had another guy on the podcast that talked about that, where a lot of times you mimic the companies that you see around you that you feel are doing a good job. You can mimic some of the things that they're doing, or at least pull ideas from and things like that. And then, but in the process of doing that, I think that builds muscles, marketing muscles, right? Where you start going, oh, well, I see how they're doing it, but I think if we make this tweak and do this, we could make it could even be better, right? And so a lot of times it's doing what others are doing, but then going, oh, well, let's put our spin on it.
How can I twist it to be better for my company?
And let's make it, a Christian Brothers thing, right? Let's put our, for you guys, maybe putting, the conversation of faith behind some of the messaging instead of the traditional messaging that's out there, right? There's different things that you can do that are then it becomes more authentic, right? It becomes authentic. So you could see what others are doing, but make it authentic to yourself. Maybe that's the big point I'm trying to make, right?
Yeah. I mean, they always say if you're going to survive, you want to surround yourself with 5 people who you look up to. So if you can pick your top 5 companies throughout the nation or the city, break it down, find out if they're comparable to you. Obviously you don't want to compare your mom and pop startup to a private equity investment storm chaser. That's not, you're going to get some from it, but not as much as you really should. But yeah, our favorite is meeting people at the events and then deep diving into their website, their social, their promotions, and just kind of figure out, hey, does this fit with who we are? Is there something that this sparks an idea of for us? And a lot of roundtable discussion after every event we attend.
So events that's a great thing to do, right? It's just the sharing of ideas at these events is amazing. That's great. So what are some of the bigger things that have come out of some of these networking events or things for you, whether it's just your certain processes in the business or certain marketing strategies or anything that stands out to you? We got this one from we were sitting at a table, and this is where I think it's just off track a little bit, but it's a lot of times it's at lunch, right? You just end up sitting at a table with someone that you've never met, and you have this conversation, and it's boom, there's this light bulb.
Yeah. Let's see. I would have to say probably the most recent one that's made the biggest impact the quickest was Wealth Builder this last year. They do a innovation award, which I always pay really close attention to because we started giving an innovation bonus of, I don't know if I'm supposed to say it, but whatever, a good chunk to any employee in the company that can make a process better or create a process or create a product or anything. They get an innovation award bonus for doing so because we want their ideas to be at the forefront and we want them to feel valued and know that they have a voice. And this is a family company. We adopted you. You're a part of the family. So this innovation award, they had the top 3 finalists, and I was really taken aback, honestly, by a couple of the finalists. I was like, the first one was hands down great. The other two, I was like, okay. So I was in the next group, and I was telling the girl beside me, I'm like, so who are you? What do you do? What's your favorite part? That kind of thing. And we're just talking. And I was mentioning the innovation awards. I was like, I really wonder what the other 2 were that didn't get put up on the stage. And she goes, oh, actually, I was one of them. And that's where like, okay, thank you. God put me in the right place next to the right person. That's who I needed to speak with. And I followed up and had conversations with her for probably 3 months about what she was doing and brought it to our roundtable discussions. And everybody was like, oh, that's expensive. But essentially it's the introduction of AI to our sales process. Wow. And she had been using it successfully, specifically training wise. She was training new salespeople and keeping them on board and company messaging. And as a Christian and faith-based company, like the last thing we want is somebody off message and somebody who our customers are not getting the experience they're supposed to, We want them representing our company in every bit of their interaction with that customer. And so this was huge for me. This was a game changer. And we floated around the idea back and forth. But with the roundtable discussion, that's when it came into, okay, well, let's push it out and see who might want to help us with this. Remember, just because you want to take on something big doesn't mean your company needs to fund it entirely. Who else could this information benefit? And then reach out. The worst they can say is no. And so we're using that now, and it's made a huge difference. One of my top salesmen was having kind of a lower year, and then we introduced this, and he's doubled his sales in the last month.
Is it one of the AI platforms that like listens to the sales conversation and makes suggestions on certain things?
Yeah.
So
it's given Ryan, our sales guy, our sales management, my brother, Ryan. Yeah. He's our residential production. He's my brother. Yeah. Given him the best coaching and ability to really quickly give feedback and corrections, whether you've been with us 5 years or whether you've been with us 6 months, he is able to do that quickly and on the fly. And it's really improved the experience. Yeah,
that's it. There's some amazing things that are happening, right? Like, and this is, I've looked into a lot of the, or a couple of the AI tools that do this and listen to sales conversations, and like they'll pull out like key phrases that people say and the way they say things, and like all kinds of good data on that, and then. To your point of needing a consistent experience with the voice of the company, right? Like that's those types of things that can be dialed in so much. That's so cool. And then, you had a rep that was struggling, not having a great year, and a little bit of technology takes it and turns things around. And back to the providing others opportunities. I wrote down what you said, like this is a way to improve the opportunity that you're giving to other people in all of the things that you're doing. You're putting all of those things together. I love the idea of the innovation bonus. That's an amazing idea, right? Like, so give me a little more context to that. How have you structured it? You don't have to say the exact dollar amounts that you're doing or anything like that, but like, what does that do? And then I also heard you say that you have like a round table. So as people bring these ideas, I want to like, how have you structured that?
Okay. So as far as the innovation bonus itself, it just has, the requirement is that it has to improve upon existing process or create a new process that streamlines and creates less work. Because that's what we want to do. We don't necessarily want to do every roof in the city, but we want to do the roofs we can better and more effectively and more efficiently for our customers and our employees. So one innovation award, for example, we use a proprietary worksheet for our bidding that my dad created. And that worksheet is proprietary for a reason. You know what I mean? But something, it was all family using it at first, and then it was family plus a couple employees. And as we grow, there's more people with access. So when a newbie emailed the worksheet to a customer instead of the PDF proposal, that threw up a red flag for all of us. We were like, oh my gosh, you did what? You know what I mean? But another employee was like, hey, why don't we just lock it? It never, in all of the years before that employee was part of this company, it never occurred to us. It was it wasn't really a need. It wasn't something, but that is a simple suggestion that she brought to me that I was like, oh yeah. Now it does add a step in the process of creating a sale, but the security it offers is that much more, another one would be, one of our repairmen decided to start using Snapchat before we had Job Nimbus. I'll tell you this. Before Job Nimbus's photo features, we didn't want to invest in Company Cam or any of the other ones out there. We were like, we can just use the photos as it is until we find one that kind of fits all of our needs. So he started using Snapchat and was labeling everything, the customer name, the address, and this is the shingle repair on the east side. And he showed me a whole folder of how he'd done it. And I was like, that's absolutely beautiful. And that earned him his innovation bonus.
Yeah.
So
it's like when you give people, like, people find a way to do things more efficiently a lot of times, right? There are certain people that'll just do whatever the way you said it. But a lot of people are like, well, how can I make my job easier? Right. Like, and a lot of times it's just outside of your view. Like, you don't even think about a lot of these things. As these ideas come up, you said that they go to the round table. So what happens at the round table? How are you guys deciding this is something we want to put in place? This is something that that's not right for us.
So for every event, at least 2 people go to an event. That way we got 2 different versions of what you heard, how you heard it, how it could or couldn't help. Roundtable, we do have a weekly meeting with a core group of 5 of us weekly. And after an event, we'll usually extend that weekly meeting an extra hour to just discuss. Between the time at which the event ends and the 2-hour meeting, it's my job, or whoever went to the event, it's our job to reach out to the people or the companies that you were interested, do the demos, research the product, call companies outside of our region. I can't tell you how many roofing companies I've called all over the nation. Most of them don't call you back, but the ones that do, you get real feedback. Just saying, hey, I'm looking for info on this. It said on your website that you used them. It's huge to get actual feedback. And then when we have real data, we present it at the round table. It's not, hey, I heard this, it might be cool. It's, I heard this, I researched this, I nixed this one, but this one looks like it's got potential. Because the best advice we ever got was come away from every event with one thing for your company to move forward on. And then a lot of things can be on the back burner and maybe for a little, but if you can agree as a company on one, and it may be you get into 3 and 4 different Zooms down with 2 companies that are just like, this might be cool, but if you're going in every direction, you're not going to build where you want to build. And it's taken us, learning that the hard way. We learned, don't let anybody scan your badge unless you're actually interested, stuff like that, where the office is fielding 300 extra calls in a week. But we learned a lot of things the hard way, and that's part of the processes, not just process of customer resources, but your actually employee and their resources and their research.
But it's building it into the culture though too, is what it sounds like, right? Like it's a culture of innovation.
Yeah.
So it's a culture of, hey, if you see something to improve upon, maybe innovate on it and show it to us. Or here, a couple of you are going to all of the, you're going to go to this event. You guys are going to this event. You two are going to this event. You two are going to this event. And everyone bring back one thing. And I think that's a good execution on it is one thing, right? Like coming back to one thing. One of my mentors he says, money loves speed, right? Like, so if you go to these events, sometimes you have like 10 great ideas. It's like, I want to do all of these things. And
everybody's giving you a deal.
And you get none of them done, right? Like, because you're like, I'm doing all 10. And then like life happens. But if you implement one and you execute on it quickly and you just go like that, those iterations in your business are so powerful.
And use your suppliers and use your manufacturers. I mean, that's one of the biggest things I can say for especially mom and pop startups. Like, don't shoulder it all. Ask. The worst they can say is no. And then you've asked, and the next time something comes up, you're on the top of their mind because you asked for something and they want to help you just as much as you want to help your customer.
That's one of the things that I think is very important for a lot of owners to, especially like you said, when people are starting out, understand that the territory reps for your manufacturers, for the supply houses, they have a vested interest in you doing better.
They do, but you have to value that relationship and communicate the value to them. For example, you've got the territory managers that have the companies that are, got to take these guys out. They're going to run up a huge bill, but they buy. They're not going to be the first call for that territory rep when they say, hey, we've got co-op coming. We've got $3,000 to co-op we can use this month. Who wants it? Who am I giving it to? They're going to go to the ones that are like, hey, sometimes they'll ask for some event tickets, or hey, they wanted me to take them shooting, stuff like that. Like you want to bring those reps into your culture and into your company and make them just as integral to your business as your actual employees, because they will make you or break you in a storm season.
Definitely.
But also they can build your business exponentially if you're walking alongside of them.
For sure. And they have a lot of insight. How you said, when you're going to these events and you're talking to all these other contractors and you're learning these different things, they're doing that every day. They're seeing who's making it, who's not, right? They're seeing a lot of the mistakes, a lot of the successes along the way. And there are so many things that you can utilize through the reps and through those relationships. It blows me away, Jennifer, how many people don't use their marketing dollars, or don't even know that there's
don't know they exist.
Don't even know that this money exists. Like there is money there to help with your marketing, to wrap trucks and to do it's crazy.
To do incentives for your team.
Right?
Logo wear for your crews.
It's so there are so many things that can be had through those relationships. So definitely, one manufacturer or another, or supplier or another, there's good people in all of them. So one of the things that you'd mentioned, okay, so residential, and then you have the new commercial flow. The commercial side of the business, different sales cycle, right? Different. What have you learned moving into the commercial side of things? That it's a different animal, right? But what are some of the things that stand out to you, more early on?
To decide and really narrow down on who your ideal commercial customer is. That one, when you're first getting into I'd say first getting into, we've done TPO and flat roofing, for 14 years. But when you're really aggressively deciding you want to take control of a market share there, who is your customer? Just like our residential, being able to be like, oh, this isn't going to jive with us. This isn't our vibe. So we've narrowed down, especially for our marketing, but also for our actual print advertising, stuff like that. As I would say the number 2/3 of the company, like Ryan and I, my brother, it depends on what we're doing. He's my dad's number 2 for one, I'm my dad's number 2 for the other. But there's always going to be that person, and giving that person the respect of addressing the mail to them or knowing that it's going to land on their desk. I can't tell you how many calls we get for Scott, but if somebody's calling for Jennifer, the girls know what they're asking, they know how to field it, and they know what comes through to me and what doesn't, because it has to go through me to go to him. And understanding that relationship and respecting it means that we can change our marketing and change our graphics and processes to be that, hey, we know the number 2 person at that company has a lot on their plate. You are generally like me. Everything's being thrown at you. You're going to manage it all. But if you've got a company over here that wants to make that process easier, more seamless, and give you all of the knowledge you need and the access to answer any questions that we haven't, then you want us to do that roof. We want to make everything easier and better for that person so that the owner can say, wow, you really took this on. You answered all the questions I had. Thank you for doing that research, Beverly or John or whoever that number 2 is. Who do you think we should go with? That's granted. There's a lot of handshakes and networking groups for business to business. Right. There's a lot of that. But it's the number 2 that really seems to be overlooked. And our residential guys, I think we touched on this when we talked before, but one of the free social media tips that I worked out with one of our sales guys, when he was like, I'm going in all these insurance agents, but I can't split 7 different policies. So how can I add value to them? Because I can't just take referrals without adding value for them. So that's when we came up with, well, instead of just bringing coffee, why don't you bring coffee and add a QR code to your Snapchat on your business card or on the card you're dropping off the cookies with? Because you know who's in the office that's going to Snapchat for 10 minutes on their break and just check you out? If you're, spending knowledge of roofing and showing them what's going on and showing an install of today and what we do differently, every 60-second clip is building value for those people in the office, and it's building respect for your company as a whole. And there's a lot to be said about the same thing on the commercial side, is valuing those people in those key positions because the owner values them, so you should too.
That's amazing advice, because everyone focuses on the person at the top, right? You think they're the decision maker, but in most cases, they rely on their team for decisions.
We have a running joke in our office of, do you want to talk to the man who makes the decision or the woman who turns the head?
Perfect, right? Like that's the perfect road. And what I like about that too, and it was funny, I had another conversation last week. It was like about social media and things like that. And we were talking about how like this podcast, it's for owners, right? It's for owners.
Yeah.
But not only owners listen to it, right? There are salespeople that listen. There are production people that listen. There's people all across the roofing industry that listen. I found out there's even some real estate people that listen. Like I found out, I'm like, why are you guys listening to the Roofing Success Podcast, right? But all of those people are involved in the decision making, right? Like all of it along the way.
At some point in the process.
They're all involved in the decision making process, right? Yeah. And so what you were talking about in the innovation, kind of the way you guys are looking for innovation, or you're out at events, it's oh, we use this, or this is something that we've implemented. And like it comes to you, it doesn't go to Scott, right? It doesn't go to your dad. It doesn't go, nothing. He's not the filter for
Yeah.
everything. That's it. Like,
No.
and we don't, that's a great thing to think about. And I mean, a lot of times we think about in the commercial side, maybe it's more of the property managers a lot of times, but then who in their property management company might be, what are there's people in that business too. There's not just the property managers. There's everyone.
And what is their stressor? What can you make better? Every property manager is going to have some kind of packet for you. So why not send your estimate with half the stuff that is always in those packets?
Always in the packet, right?
You're checking off boxes before you've done it. You're showing you've worked with property owners before and you value their time. What else can we help you with? Please give me more work to do for you.
Yeah, and making it easy for on the residential or commercial side, right? For homeowners, making it easier for them to understand the process, making it easy for on the commercial side, making it easy. It's, giving people, and in making it easy. You had mentioned like one of your customers are engineers, right? And engineers have a lot of questions. If your reps can answer those questions and get like, man, it just brings a level of trust to the conversation that doesn't exist in most cases. So then if you're doing a lot of this legwork up front, like you're saying with the packets and things, like you're already a step ahead. They're like, oh, these people know what they're doing. Trust gets built through all of those interactions. Jennifer,
and you can't do that unless you're in the home.
Exactly. What do you think
which it comes back to?
What do you think the greatest insight is that you can share with the audience that's helped Christian Brothers find success?
The greatest insight that's helped us find success: keeping focused on the goal of the company as a whole in relationship to how that helps our individual employees. So every year, our annual, making sure that quarterly we're addressing, this is where we want to go, but is it where you want to go? And do we need to slow this side down? How are you feeling over here? Just kind of checking in, because just because our owner wants to be huge and massive and maybe they want to be 3 states wide, maybe your employees are not ready for that, or have, are coming up on a hard time in their life, or are having babies or getting married, or, you just never know. And so I think keeping a pulse on your employees and keeping your company goal elevated, but in relation to where you want to achieve and how everybody can be on board.
Awesome. Thanks, Jennifer. This has been another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast. If you would like to generate more revenue through your digital marketing efforts, please visit roofermarketers.com to get a copy of the book, The Best Known Roofer. Also, check the training section of the website for guides on everything from running effective pay-per-click ads to how to properly set up your Google My Business listing. Thanks for listening.